经典演说篇第159集回顾第102到106这下集你就当作回顾一下听力练习意思不懂的话你就去看前面前面各集都有做口头的解释克林顿总统第2次就职演说下集。Second inaugural address of William Jefferson Clinton.As times change, the government must change. We need a new government for a new century, humble enough not to try to solve all our problems for us, but strong enough to give us the tools to solve our problems for ourselves. A government that is smaller, lives within its means, and does more with less.Yet, where they can stand up for our values and interests in the world, and where they can give Americans the power to make a real difference in their everyday lives, government should do more, not less. The preeminent mission of our new government is to give all Americans an opportunity, not a guarantee, but a real opportunity to build better lives.Beyond that, my fellow citizens, the future is up to us. Our founders taught us that the preservation of our liberty and our union depends upon responsible citizenship. And we need a new sense of responsibility for a new century. There is work to do. Work the government alone cannot do. Teaching children to read, hiring people off welfare rolls, coming out from behind locked doors and shutter windows to help reclaim our streets from drugs and gangs and crime, taking time out of our own lives to serve others. Each and every one of us, in our own way, must assume personal responsibility, not only for ourselves and our families, but for our neighbors and our nation.Our greatest responsibility is to embrace a new spirit of community for a new century. For any one of us to succeed, we must succeed as one America. The challenge of our past remains the challenge of our future. Will we be one nation, one people, with one common destiny or not? Well, will we all come together?or come apart. The divide to race has been America's constant curse, and each new wave of immigrants gives new targets to old prejudices. Prejudice and contempt, cloak and pretense of religious or political conviction are no different. These forces have nearly destroyed our nation in the past. They plague us still.They fuel the fantasies of terror, and they torment the lives of millions in fractured nations around the world. The obsession has crippled both those who hate and, of course, those who are hated, robbing both what they might become. We will not succumb to the dark impulses that lurk in the far regions of the soul everywhere.We shall overcome them, and we shall replace them with the generous spirit of people who feel at home with one another. Our rich texture of racial, religious, and political diversity will be a godsend in the 21st century. Great rewards will come to those who can live together, learn together, work together, forge new ties that bind together.As this new era approaches, we can already see this broad outlines. 10 years ago, the internet was the mystical province of physics. Today, it is a commonplace encyclopedia for millions of school children. Scientists now are decoding the blueprint of human life. Cures for most field illnesses seem close at hand. The world is no longer divided into two hostile camps. Instead, now we are building bonds with actions that once with our adversaries. Growing connections in commerce and culture give us a chance to lift the fortunes and spirits of people the world over. And for the very first time in all of history, more people on this planet live under democracy than dictatorship. My fellow Americans, as we look back at this remarkable century, we may ask, can we hope not just to follow, but even to surpass the achievements of the 20th century in America, and to avoid the awful bloodshed that stained its legacy? To that question, every American here and every American in our land today must answer a resounding yes. This is the heart of our task. With a new vision of government, a new sense of responsibility, a new spirit of community, we will sustain America's journey. The promise we sought in a new land we will find again in a land of new promise. In this new land, education will be every citizen's most prized possession. Our schools will have the highest standards in the world, igniting the spark of possibility in the eyes of every girl and every boy. And the doors of higher education will be open to all. The knowledge of the power of the information age will be within reach not just of the few, but of every classroom, every library, every child. Parents and children will have time not only to work, but to read and play together. And the plans they make at their kitchen table will be those of a better home, a better job, the certain chance to go to college. Our streets will echo again with the laughter of our children, because no one will try to shoot them or sell them drugs everywhere anymore. Everyone who can work will work, with today's permanent elder class part to tomorrow's growing middle class. New miracles of medicine at last will reach not only those who can claim cure now, but the children and hard-working families too long deny. We will stand mighty for peace and freedom and maintain a strong defense against terror and destruction. Our children will sleep free from the threat of nuclear, chemical, or biological weapons. Ports and airports, farms and factories will thrive with trade and innovation and ideas. And the world's greatest democracy will lead a whole world of democracies. Our land of new promise will be a nation that meets its obligations, a nation that balances a budget, but never loses the balance of its values. A nation where our grandparents have secured retirement and health care, and their grandchildren now we have made the reforms necessary to sustain these benefits for their time. A nation that fortified the world's most productive economy, even as it protects the great and natural bounty of our water, air, and majestic land. And in this land of new promise, we will have reformed our politics so that the voice of the people will always speak louder than the din of narrow interests, regaining the participation and deserving the trust of the Americans. Fellow citizens, let us build America, a nation ever moving forward towards realizing the full potential of all the citizens. Prosperity and power, yes, they are important, and we must maintain them. But let us never forget the greatest progress we made, and the greatest progress we have yet to make, is in the human heart and the end of the world's health, wealth, and 1,000 armies are no match for the strength and decency of the human spirit. 34 years ago, the man whose life we celebrate today spoke to us down there at the other end of this mob in words that moved the conscience of the nation. Like a prophet of old, he told of a dream that one day America would rise up and treat all the citizens as equals before the law in their heart. Martin Luther King's dream was the American dream. His quest is our quest. The ceaseless striving to live out our true creed. Our history has been built on such dreams and labors. And by our dreams and labors we will redeem the promised America in the 21st century. To that effort I pledge all my strength and every power of my office. And ask the members of Congress here to join in that pledge. The American people returned to office the president of one party and the Congress of another. Surely they do not do this to advance the politics, the petty bickering, and the extreme partisanship they plainly deplore. Now they call on us instead to be repairers of the breach and to move on with America's mission. America demands and deserves big things from us, and nothing big ever came from being small. Let us remember the timeless wisdom of Cardinal Bernardin when facing the end of his own life. He said, "It is wrong to waste a precious gift of time on acrimony and division." Fellow citizens, we must not waste the precious gifts of this time, for all of us are on that same journey of our lives, and our journey too will come to an end. The journey of our America must go on. And so, my fellow Americans, we must be strong, for there is much to dare. The demands of our time are great and they are different. Let us meet them with faith and courage, with patience and a grateful and happy heart. Let us shade the hope of this day into the noblest chapter in our journey. Yes, let us build a bridge wide enough and strong enough for every American to cross over to a blessed land of new promise. May this generation whose faces we cannot yet see, whose names we may never know, instead of us here that we led our beloved land into a new century with the American dream alive for her children, with the American promise of a more perfect union, a reality for their hope people. With America's bright flame of freedom spreading throughout all the world. From the height of this place and the summit of this century, let us go forth. May God strengthen our hands for the good word ahead, and always bless America. 好，这一集回顾到这里。